Okay, I'd like to first take a moment of silence for longtime and well-loved dedicated county employee John MacArthur, who passed away over Thanksgiving weekend. People would have seen John running a gravel truck or plowing our roads with a plow truck. He was out there the first thing to get us on the roads every morning. So our thoughts are with his family. So just take a moment of silence. Okay, I'd like to now call the meeting to order. Agenda additions and approval. Any additions?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add to, under the bylaws, 10.2, bylaw 1669-21, use of, it's a general traffic bylaw, but it would be about the use of engine retarder brakes in the hamlets of the county of Stellar for first, second, and third reading.
The number is what again?
10.2.
10.2.
Okay. Any others? Seeing none. Councilor Silver, is there something, Councilor Nixon?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have a minute or two, if I could, towards the end of the meeting.
Okay, we will put that under just before, would we call that a report, Councilor Nixon?
I guess you could.
Okay. Just before our consent agenda items.
Or you could do it just before the next meeting. Whenever you want to do it.
That'd be the best time to do it.
We'll just put it as you betcha.
We're gonna make it 12:06, 12:07.
I'll just put it, we do have in cameras, depending on where in camera falls, but. Yeah. Okay, anything else, Councilor Stover?
I will move the agenda with the additions. And Cherie, do you have a report addition?
Yeah, I have 2 report additions. They're coming in.
Okay, and including the committee reports from Cherie.
Okay.
And the other additions, I will approve, remove the agenda.
Okay, all in favor? Carried? You're in favor, Councilor Member?
I am.
Sorry.
Okay, minute approval from the September 8th, 2021 regular council meetings. Councilor Tender? Any questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried. We have a public hearing at 1 o'clock. No delegations this meeting. And we will start with item number 6.1, memo, ratepayer request for reimbursement from Councilor Grover, page 9 of our package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll refer to Councilor Grover.
Yeah. I have a ratepayer and apparently he had a truck get knocked the mirror off his truck with its loose gravel. I don't think we paid for this, but I told him I would bring it to council and we would vote on it.
Yeah.
Because we had incidents like this before.
Councilor Member?
There's a bill fee in front of you.
Typically, don't we send this stuff to our insurance company and then they deal with it? And the only thing is that if we do this, I think a lot of the issues would end up coming to council on a regular basis, and it make it political versus making it the insurance company deals with it on a factual basis and deals with it if they find it necessary to deal with it. Just my thoughts. That's what anybody in my area, that's what I've told them to bring it to the county and bring it to their county's insurance if there's something that is not.
Councilor Tender?
Do we have any policies or bylaws stating that, okay, when you travel on the roads, that there could be possibly some endangerment? There could be no difference in if we went provincially on roads or federally on roads. So like what responsibility do any road owners have back to anyone traveling on it?
I'm not aware of any bylaws or policies. I know that provincially, if you get a rock through your window, unless you can track the person down that threw it at you, and even then you have a hard time proving it unless you have glass insurance, usually don't get reimbursed. But we have put these types of requests through our insurance company in the past, and they will look at it, gather some information, and get back to us with an answer.
This invoice too, I also, when I looked at it last night, I noticed too that it's also replacing the windshield is on it too. So that's what my thoughts were, is I've had broken many windshields on Alberta roads, whether it be gravel or pavement. That's never been, and I've broken mirrors actually too, I guess, so I never thought that there was any chance of ever recovering it, so, myself.
This is a service estimate as well. It's not the actual bill. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was actually done or it's just an estimate of service.
The windshield is $726.95 on that bill also, because it's $566.95 and $160 to replace it. Councilor Nixon?
We discussed this a while earlier, here a few meetings ago, and I think one of the comments were, I could have made it myself, that I'm pretty sure every one of us has got a vehicle sitting around that's got a rock in the windshield or have had. And it just opens a whole can of worms. I mean, everybody would be sending a bill to the county for rock in the windshield or something like that, or rock damage. And a lot of the rocks that I've picked up over a period of years have happened on the highway. You know, and I think that's fairly common too. So who knows how long the rock had been in the tire or how long it, or where it came from for sure. So just my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Jenner?
On the descriptions
Here
here,
it says replace left-hand side lower mirror glass and replace right-hand upper and lower mirror glass. If they're also replacing the windshield, I find that quite an extensive damage to be all of a sudden taken from the front of a vehicle. If it's going to be from a single rock, I can't really understand this part.
Where are you going to go with it, Mr. Grover? It's your dig.
To replace it. That way it'll move it forward.
Other questions, concerns?
I was gonna say, I'm concerned too about the amount of glass that's being requested to be replaced.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Councilor Grover's in favor, all opposed? Balance are opposed, so it's not carried. Okay. 7, new business, request for decision, Christmas holidays. It's coming, starting to feel more like that these mornings.
Cancel Christmas.
Yeah.
Cancel
Christmas and
no more scraps for the lepers.
Okay, and it's page 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the County of Stellar for the last few years has closed between Christmas and New Year's to give staff an uninterrupted break. It's handy because a lot of people that we have a hard time getting out of here have to get out of here because the doors are locked and no one else is working. So, you know, there's not that desire to come in and help out your fellow employee. Anyway, I thought I would bring this forward this year. As Christmas falls on Saturday and Boxing Day on Sunday, we would be obligated to give staff off the Monday and Tuesday, which is the 27th and the 28th. And then New Year's also falls on Saturday, so we would either have to give them December 31st or January 3rd off in lieu. If they took off December 31st, then we would just require 2 additional days to make up this week off, and it is a nice break for staff.
Councilor Nixon?
I would like to move staff recommendation, Mr. Chairman, with the condition that we take the CAO's keys away, so she can't get into the building between that time.
And her phone and her computer.
What if there's a storm?
There's somebody else that can handle it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But we also, staff is also aware, especially Greater Alberta Utilities, that there are things that have to be done during this time, and we made sure that they get completed.
Any questions, concerns? Counselor Dender?
I'll just say hats off to Yvette and her staff that she's allotted in order to build a bunch all the days together so that they can have a very decent time away and regroup on her. Thank you.
Counselor Stover?
Yeah, just a further comment. I mean, we have a really hardworking staff here, and I think it's really nice if they get a good break at Christmas. And also, it's traditionally a pretty slow time for our office, I think, for the public. Most people are doing things with their families. They're not coming in for county business that week. So I think it's a perfect win-win for everyone.
Any other questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried. Yes, request for decision 7.2, Stettler Town and County Museum, Light the Night. Page 12 of the package.
Mr. Chairman, Nikki, would you like to comment on this?
Sure. Annually, the next door neighbors here, the Stettler Town and Country Museum, holds a Light the Night in December throughout the entire month. In the last couple of years, it has been. And community businesses put up light displays and make a beautiful winter wonderland for our community to come and visit. And you can walk through or you can drive through, and it's a great thing they do. So annually they have asked us to participate. I haven't actually received the request this year, but I am 99.9% sure it's coming. So we just wanted to know if council supported our attendance and participation in this again in 2021.
I would move that we do support the Light the Nights once more.
Okay. Any questions, concerns? Councilor Needs?
Did we put lights around the road grader last year?
No, because we would have probably shorted out most of the town of Stettler. What we did do was,
What we did do was decorated the private land sprayer, the Kubota, with the wing. We had spray coming up. We were originally going to do the Schulte mowers, but we couldn't find enough lights to go around it. There wasn't enough to buy in Stettler, so we had to bring it down a little bit.
Councilor Stover?
Yeah, I think it's the county always has a popular entry, and people, when they go to the museum, look for the county's entry because it's usually pretty impressive. And I know they've won People's Choice in the past, so I think it's good, especially with the COVID pandemic. It's an outdoor event people can enjoy, so I think it's a good idea.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, 7.3, request for decision, rural water hookup, page 13 of the package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've had a request from the White Sands Colony for another hookup to the water. And the water line runs right in the ditch beside their colony. So it'd be nothing to put in a meter vault and bring the water over. They're hooked up already on the other side, and they are finding with the drought this year that they are stressing out their wells, and they would like access to a little more water for their animals. They've asked that we highest flow rate, which would be 13 gallons per minute, and our line is very capable of providing this. We've had it checked out. So most of the meter vaults that we put in, very close, they're running us from $8,000 to $12,000 per hookup. So the $15,000 should cover it. If there's anything else to hook it up, they're responsible after we put the meter vault in. But I think that we have the water, we have the ability, we have the allocation, and so we're requesting that you approve this.
Councilor Grover?
Isn't our thing 2 gallon a minute? Not 13?
Well, you can basically get as much as you can, but you have to pay for the water. Right now, the contract does say that we give you, it's a trickle system with a gallon per minute, and it goes into a cistern. But as long as we have the capacity, we are allowing people to take as much as they require.
But the other thing is we're expanding up north area. This isn't going to affect that line. Okay.
Councilor Nixon?
I guess, to be fair, how are we going to charge the Red Willow Pork Farm? Are they going to take one share or 2 shares or 3 shares? I just want to
Work on a share basis.
Yes, so they've got one installed now, which I think came off the original Botha Gas.
You're talking White Sands.
White Sands, right, off the
They
original.
come off the 6-inch line from Stettler to Botha.
But when we talked about the Red Willow Pork Farm here just a month or so ago, we talked about, offering maybe 1 or 2 shares or whatever you want to call it.
Right, so if they just took the one hookup and wanted to do the same thing, whatever that line would provide, so if it was 13 gallons a minute, then we would provide that. They pay for the water, right?
Yeah.
If they wanted 2, because they wanted to bring in more, then they would pay 2 hookups, which is basically what White Sands is doing.
If they wanted to bring it, say, to their house or houses or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And to the big barns separately. Okay, thank you. Just as long as it's fair to everyone.
So, I hope that I'm right on this, because the Gadsby Water Co-op had a share system. Our system doesn't have a share system, so there is no buying shares or anything.
No, but
Per hookup.
Per hookup.
Yeah, per hookup, exactly. So I don't confuse that system between the two.
Well,
My question would be in this is, would it be advantageous to look into the future for these, for the colony, to look at hooking in 2 meter volts at this point to get 2 hookups versus doing it later on? It might be cheaper for us to do it. I don't know, is it cheaper to put 2 meter volts in at one time than it is to put 1?
It wasn't something that they requested from us. They felt quite comfortable with the original hookup they've got from the Botha line, and now this hookup will come off the rural Stettler line, that it will meet their needs. They are aware that they're purchasing a guaranteed 1 gallon per minute, and as the line builds out, it may be brought back to that. But we have not had a problem providing any amount of water that anybody requires at this time. I think one of the biggest things, I don't know if council's all that aware, but Red Willow has been used extensively this year for guys hauling water to animals, like they're watering cattle because their sloughs have dried up, their dugouts have dried up. Red Willow's been nonstop, and we haven't had one issue with it at all.
So the only thing that I would caution in that contract or the paperwork that you do up, that it's highlighted in red or dark black, that you have up to 13 gallons per minute on this, but we're only guaranteeing 1 into the future. So they understand that this is what's going forward. I don't want any 20 years down the road, whoever sits at this table can honestly say, well, yeah, no, we told you this is, and whoever sits at their table knows that that was the situation. They might be getting 13 now, but 20 years from now, if we're overloaded, they're only guaranteed 1. So.
Councilor Gender?
I'll make staff recommendations, but I also find that we may have to tie into that line ceiling with a 2-inch, and the 2-inch may not accommodate
The size of vaults that we are now providing, being that they were talking about having an orifice put into it, but that's for water.
That's for water sources in order to decide on what size of vault they're really going to be needing.
And I've just got one comment to compare it to the Red Willow Pork Farm. This line is running right past it. Difference, the numbers we were talking with Red Willow Pork Farm was what could be contributed to get that line, that additional, is it 6 to 8 miles? So their Red Willow Pork Farm would be contributing more than just purchasing a meter vault, but it is to get the water up to their property. And part of it is to be part of that, contribute to that system too, so. Councilor Nixon?
Is this working now, Nikki? I realize that, Mr. Chairman, I guess the way the rural water was set up was that there's going to be closer people and farther people. So the closer subsidize the farther people away. So I just wanted to make sure that it's fair to all the people who are hooking up and may intend to hook up in the future. The only reason for my comment.
No, absolutely, but that's just to clarify it also, so.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Any other questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried.
Can I ask a question? When will they be hooked up? Or is this something that we would do yet this fall?
Yes, I think they want, Martin's waiting for me to call him.
Mark, the only reason I ask is he stopped me at the post office and asked me, and I said, the person to talk to is a vet. So
I promised him, at lunch or whenever we take a break, that I would call him, because I think, yes, I'd like to work with Randy and get it in there immediately.
that's good. The more volume we get, the better it is for us.
Also, I know council knows this, but we have a huge allocation on the Shirley McCollum. Also, when Camrose pulled out and Lacombe, we kept their allocations. And the county of Stettler has the ability every year to evaluate our allocations off the Shirley McCollum. We can up them, we can lower them, just like every other community along the line does. But right now, our allocation has met our residents' needs and then some. So we're fortunate that way.
Okay, thank you. Request for decision, CAO evaluation 7.4, page 15 of our package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is basically housekeeping that has to be done annually, and it's just council's acknowledgement of the CAO review that was completed on October the 7th.
Councilor Pilber?
I would like to make the motion to confirm that we have completed the CAO review and to approve it today as completed, I mean. And I would also like to add that it was a very strong review. The CEO ranked extremely high in all categories with all councillors. Just so for, information to our public, that it was a very strong performance evaluation for our CEO.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Yvette.
Thank you.
7.5, request for decision, award contract for stormwater plan in Carlisle Estates, page 16 of the package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick, would you like to comment on this?
I sure would, yeah, thank you. So as an emerging issue, we had a contact with a couple of ratepayers in Carlisle Estates this year where ponding in the existing ditches has been a bit of an issue. How to fix it is a bit of a problem as the subdivision doesn't really have positive drainage recognized right now. A lot of the ditches are on private property and didn't get easements associated with them when the subdivision was built. So in that, I really don't know what to do with that until we get some better empirical data on it. I thought I'd bring it up either as a emerging issue now that we can maybe get done this fall before it snows, or maybe get some direction included in the upcoming budget due next year. Bottom line is a lot of the ditches are very flat. They grow a lot of cattails and things that are holding water back. And we've recognized as well when we did the first phase of paving in there a few years back, that entire grade for that first few hundred meters off of the main road was just saturated with water, that we had to remove all the material and rebuild it. So to that end, I contacted a couple of consultants that have been doing work out in this area recently and priced out what I would call a stormwater model. So they would do a survey, do a computer generated model of how it operates the way it is, and then provide us recommendations for improvements, things that we can either do on an infrastructure basis or, heaven forbid, maybe put some kind of a pump station in at some point. I wouldn't expect that, but at least we get a handle on exactly what we should expect from what was originally designed. And I can't find any information on the construction of that subdivision that this was ever done. It almost appears that they just basically threw ditches in and let them grade the way they graded, and that was about it. So wanted to bring it to you for consideration, knowing that we do have a bit of time this fall if we jump on it to get something done. Budget wise, we did not budget for it this year, but I think with the overall plus and minus on the budgets, this is something we could put in if you felt it was important, or I could put it into next year's budget for conversation coming up in the next couple of months.
Councilor Grover?
This is in this year's budget, so I'd like to see it put into, I'd like to go with option number 3.
Councilor Nyman?
Unfortunately, Mr. Grover, I disagree with you a little bit on that because this is the problem that we have had in the past with this is that it keeps getting pushed off and keeps getting pushed off and pushed off. The individuals in that particular Carlisle Estates, they contribute a fair number of tax dollars. The problem with those slow flowing ditches is it's a compounding issue because if it was fast flowing, they would clean themselves out a little bit, but since they're slow flowing, they stop settlement and they just get plugged up that much more. Every fall, spring, summer, we get concerns, we get out there, we spend 4 or 5 hours with our crews cleaning up the ditches. This is a maintenance issue, so it's not a construction issue, this is a maintenance issue, so I would like to see us get the study done and be ready for spring so that we can make this happen. I don't think it's going to be a large project. Unfortunately, in the government world, we do have to have engineering studies to get things moved forward. So.
Councilor Gender?
Many years ago, before I was on council, there was one time, actually the owners out there, they had hired me in order to dig out some snow that was back, holding the water back. So if those cases ever come, if we ever get any snow, that's always something that's going to impede the drainage. And also when you have any great amount of grass or cattails growing here, there's a capillary reaction that even if it's flat or sloped, it holds the water back. We've got to get rid of this water. So I'm more for that. Do the study now so we can attack it anytime we can.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, did you make that motion, Mr. Grover, or are you just making the suggestion of number 3? Because you were before me.
If the suggestion,
Then I will make the motion that we go ahead and award the contract to Rohi Engineering for the sum of $19,382.
Councilor Grover?
question to the CEO, we got room in budget?
I think we could find it. If not, we can borrow it from reserves and then budget to pay it back in 2022.
Any other questions? Councilor Gender?
Is this budget or GST excluded?
GST, I don't think would be in there.
Yeah, no, GST is kind of a flow through, so I tend to ignore it. So.
Just as long as it's written down. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, all in favor? Carried.
7.6, request for decision award tender for gravel crushing, page 17 of our package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll let Rick speak to this one also.
So probably something we're going to be dealing with a fair bit now that we've been working our gravel reserves down a little bit, is going to be regular crushing activities and whatnot to keep the gravel program fed. So we went out to tender this fall with the idea that we're going to crush at the Schaff pit, the Storman pit, and again at the Bridges pit. And we'll be doing the 1-inch specification that we brought before council a few months back as far as how we're dealing with our gravel anyway. So a little bit upsized off to 3/4, but not fully sized up to the 1.5 inch that we've been using lately. We got a fair number of bids. 3 of them agreed fairly, if not 4 of them agreed on a fairly reasonably low number that was less than I had originally anticipated. So it does afford us an opportunity to extend an invitation to them to crush more. Finance department gave me a number of $751,819 to work with. And at low bid of $525, we have the ability to put a bit more gravel up while we're there at these current prices, which are definitely lower than I'd estimated and appear lower than what we paid for last time.
Thanks, Rick.
Give me the option there anyways, if we can either just award the contract the way we have it, we can offer an extension to them and see if they'll do more in one of the pits or a few of them, or take no action at all.
Councilor Gender and then Councilor Stuber.
On the very bottom of that page, it says the 2021 budget has allotted $751,000 and change towards the production of gravel at each one of these pits.
In total.
It's total. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Stuber.
Have we used, as for crushing before? Because we've used Brockhoff's in Bashaw, right?
Well, that's right. I did a bit of checking on Howell. They've actually been expanding their crushing and bought out another contractor that was doing things. So they're an established Innisfail contractor that is expanding their business and doing a fair bit of this. So,
And the winning contract would get all 3 pits.
yes.
Councilor Nixon?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we go with option 1. With Hall's Excavating Limited. And offer them the further crushing to meet our budget, if so desired by Public Works.
Thank you, Councilor Nixon. Councilor Nyberg, and then.
Just a question to administration. Our local contractors were contacted and didn't want to bid, or what? I just don't see any local. We have a number of crushers, I think, in town, don't we?
We did advertise, didn't make personal calls on this one at all. I have talked to at least one that I know of, local contractor that's just not set up for it yet, but does some, right?
Okay, fair enough. No, I just want to make sure that we're not forgetting our locals.
Councilor Grover?
This is all 1 inch that we're crushing, there's no inch and a half, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have a pretty good supply of 1.5 inches to use when we need to.
Okay, any other, Councilor Tender, and then Councilor Needs?
Safety programs are all in line?
Yeah.
That, and okay, just out of these amounts of 25,000 cubes, so you're going 3 pits, what do we generally use per year?
Our cost of gravel ranges north of $1 million a year, so in addition to, like, we'll use more than this in a year by and large, but we've already got some stockpiles in the area that we're still using up. This is making sure that we don't run out. We have the ability to move out to the other areas. And I pretty much guarantee you this will be unless we do a massive crush someplace when we get something opened up like we did in Stormont a number of years back, where we just kept going and going and going. We will be doing this virtually annually, if not every 2 years, to keep supplies up where they need to be. We're working off of a couple of long-term supplies that were stockpiled at ASDE and at Stormont in the past, that those reserves are starting to come down now and getting close.
I just wanted to make it a point of, okay, if someone sees these numbers, that it might be an extravagant amount that they feel that it is, but I just want them to be aware that we utilize this plus everything in every year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Councilor Needs?
Are we gonna be crushing in 3/4 inch?
No, I still have a little bit of 3/4 inch, well, a fair bit down in ASDE that we'll be using in the southeast. We're using up pretty much what we've got up in the north this fall, and there's still a little bit down in the Stormont pit. So the idea would be to use up the past 3/4 inch spec stuff and then move wholly into the 1 inch spec that we discussed a couple of months back.
Councilor Grover?
Who is going to be the supervisor to make sure this is a 420 spec or whatever? You?
I look after it, yeah.
Okay.
Not modified.
This will meet the, I'm saying, I agree with you, not modified. That's been our problem in the past. We allowed some people to allow that to be modified, and that was I think our downfall.
This will meet the specifications that we passed in a previous council discussion this summer, so that we can get this crushing contract going with a direction for the future.
Good.
Any other questions? We have a motion on the table from Councilor Nixon. All in favor? Carried. 7.7, request for decision, community investment program policy, page 19 is package.
Nikki, did you want to comment on this, Lorraine? I see Lorraine's not here.
Yep, sure. So council actually just approved this policy in April, earlier this year. When we went to put it into effect, we realized we had missed the deadlines. There was a discrepancy in deadlines within the policy, so we adjusted it to make one deadline. Well, there's actually two, so council will look at requests twice a year, but we aligned them so that they were the same. And then in doing this review, I did also notice that we had made a commitment in there to advertise in the newspaper, which is a little archaic because we have also updated our advertising policy to mostly steer everyone to the website with a little bit of newspaper advertising. So I just wanted to realign that to what we'd already updated our advertising policy to be. And that's all for your consideration.
Councilor Stolberg?
I'd like to make the motion for option number 1 to adopt this revised policy.
Questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Nikki. 7.8, request for decision, Parkland Library budget, page 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Annually, we approve the Parkland Regional Library budget. There's no change from last year. Les, you may want to speak to it. You're a little more familiar with it than I am.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, the Parkland Regional Library, they need to submit their budget to the province by the end of December. So they like to get these budgets out to the municipalities that fund them early so that they, if they're not approved, they'll have to rework their budget. But in this case, there was no increase in the requisition, and this is the 3rd year in a row that has held with no increases. So, and I think I've mentioned this before, like the Parkland Regional Library to libraries is pretty much like RMA is to us. It is huge purchasing power on books and computers, and it's tech service, and there's a long list of the things that they do to keep the libraries running. And if it wasn't for them, if the libraries had to do this on their own, and internet type services too, I mean, the return on the dollar is huge. So I think it is a very worthwhile part of the library system, and pretty much can't run without it. So with that, I would like to make the motion that we approve their 2022 budget request. It's 47,590.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Lambert?
Mr. Stillberg, could you tell us a little bit what the Parkland Regional Library does do for the Stettler Library? Just the quick notes.
Yeah, well, I think the purchasing power on books is, I think, pretty well less than half price. Computers, pretty close to the same. The tech service, it runs all the web pages for all the libraries, and there's about 66 member libraries, I believe, in this central zone of Parkland serves. They have, and I think another thing is the book loans or whatever. The vans come twice a week to Stettler Library because this library doesn't have to have their shelves full of every book there is out there. So interlibrary loans is huge. And then there's also, that's within Parkland Regional, but also the Parkland Regional also coordinates with all the other regional libraries. So if the books you need aren't within Parkland Regional, they access them from the province, throughout the province. And the sharing of e-resources is huge now. And of course, e-resources are largely from the US, and with US dollar, it's much cheaper if these can be shared. So there's a lot of savings through sharing e-resources as well.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. It was your turn to do a little bit of a pitch for them. And I'll be honest, I have in the past, and my kids and my wife have used the book sharing program. You can find a book in Grand Prairie, and usually within 4 or 5 days, it'll be in the library here. They do a great service for us.
Councilor Gender?
I was just kind of wondering, maybe you could just clarify who all has access to this.
Well, this service is free to every county and town resident if they wish. And even like their magazines and things like, you don't have to subscribe to physical magazines anymore. You can get them through the library on like any e-content, of course. And there's other things too. There's loans of things besides books, like there's movie DVDs, and there's even like passes to the rec center and sports type equipment for children or anybody like that. I mean, there's a huge amount of resources at the library. And it is accessible by everyone in the county, free of charge.
Councillor Nixon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through to Councillor Spielberg. Now, I know the Parkland Regional Library was moving into a new facility and trying to sell their old facility. Has that been accomplished?
Yeah, that went very well. Actually, it hardly used almost any dollars from their reserves. They did have a small amount of money put aside for a new facility, but they were fortunate to access a very large government grant, and they were very fortunate to sell the property in sort of downtown, not really downtown Lacombe, but in the heart of Lacombe. And the building contractor that built the new building actually bought the old property at a very, very good price. So in the end, with selling the old building and the grant, it pretty much covered a brand new facility, which is pretty much state of the art. We haven't actually seen it physically. We've only seen it virtually because of COVID. But I mean, it's much more efficient, especially in the interlibrary loan system. And the old building was built in the 50s, then built onto, and it was various levels. And this, of course, it's modern, and it came in under budget and under the expected time date, and at very little cost to the library or the Parkland Regional Library System. So that was actually a really good news story.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Councillor Silver got a motion on the table. All in favor? Are you in favor, Councillor Needs?
Yep.
Carried?
Thank you. I'll be happy with that.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Silver. 7.9, requests for decision, Family Violence Awareness Month, November, page 44 of the package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nikki, did you want to speak to this?
Sure. Every November, communities get an opportunity to help raise awareness and prevent family violence by promoting and participating in Family Violence Awareness Month. Here locally, our FCSS offices distribute roses throughout businesses in the community. They hang a nice big purple banner up at the RCMP station, and they have asked for the County of Stettler's support in proclaiming November Family Violence Awareness Month and to help spread awareness within our communities.
Councillor Nyberg?
I would love to promote this one. I think this is a huge issue right now, especially with the strains that COVID's putting on families, and we're seeing a very big uptick on mental illness, not only in our community but throughout the province. And I think bringing awareness to this is a phenomenal thing. So this is something we definitely need to bring awareness to. Absolutely.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried.
Mr. Chairman, I would almost, are we doing, Nikki, how are we doing that as far as proclaiming the?
So we typically, and would probably do the same this year, we meet with the mayor and the FCSS, and we hold a joint proclamation media event. And then we, throughout the month, we can hashtag share information from the Family Violence Awareness Month Toolkit, which is available to us. Promote it through our Facebook and website and Twitter accounts.
Thank you. I was thinking we should do something as a whole council, because just the importance of this is, if there's something that we could do as far as council as a whole, getting together maybe at our first meeting in November with the new council, making that a point of the new council to know that how important this is within our community as well. So.
And I really think typically we deal with Judy Beebe on this, and I would think Judy would be in favor if we wanted to do still the joint with the town and the county, but do it with our councils in separate quarters too.
I think if Judy, we invited Judy to,
That November meeting.
November meeting and an opportunity, anytime we get an opportunity to, as it were, bring awareness to it, one more media event would be a good thing to do.
Okay, 7.10, request for decision, repurchase of rescue trailer, page 46 of the package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thought I'm gonna try and explain this. I see the fire chief didn't tap in. So I met with Mark last week and he has a line on a trailer, which we looked at during our budget deliberations. This trailer is to transport material and have it on site and handy for the firefighters to use. It also carries livestock panels. We've had a couple of liners go over and had pigs and cows all over the place. So I said to him that it was still sitting in the 2022 budget. Could he wait that long? He doesn't think this trailer will be available. And the town of Stettler has approved the other half of the funding, of course, if we approve ours. A couple of things with his budget. The radios still haven't been purchased as of yet. They're still working out some of the logistics on it. So that may be more of the money will get moved to a reserve and then brought back in 2022 and purchased then. Also, the training facility that the town and county partnered on, they has now found a local supplier. So we believe that we're going to be able to save some money on that. And so I thought that I would come and ask you to approve this today to enable this purchase. It was one of the items that you thought was worthwhile leaving on the budget. If we do approve it in 2021, we can still budget for it in 2022 and just pay the reserves back in 2022.
Councilor
It seemed that we've found a way to make this work. I'd like to make the motion that the county of Stettler approve joint funding of $25,000 for the proposed enclosed cargo trailer as per the 2021 Stettler Regional Fire Department capital budget request.
Questions or concerns? Councilor Kennedy?
So all this rescue equipment, response panels, they're always going to be in this trailer all the time?
Yes, and then I think it will be hooked up to a vehicle, maybe one of the Brats, maybe one of the smaller engines. And when they roll, this trailer goes with them at all times, from what I understand.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Rick.
To highlight something that we did a couple of years or so back anyways, as well. Public Works outfitted a small trailer as well with about 6 miles worth of detour signage in it. It's got a solar panel on it, lights, so when sitting on the side of the road, it's safe and whatnot, as well as work lights around it. With the idea that when there are situations that require detouring off highways onto our roads, we have the ability to grab that and move detours around to appropriate roads, I guess. That's been, I have announced that around with the fire department and a couple of other entities, and hasn't been used yet. It's sitting there ready to rock and roll, but it seems like a good idea to have certain things like this set up. It's not used all that often, but we can definitely see the benefit of these things when they do get put into use.
That should be through our emergency management. So I think that's a great idea, and Clint can look after that, right? That's
He could probably work on that.
coordinated, yeah. Just make sure that that's,
Rick.
when we do that resources through emergency management, we do a resources inventory. That's something that definitely needs to get into the resources inventory.
We did have a couple of trucks go over at Content Bridge this year, and you always worry, especially if, we were lucky. They were, lucky in a weird sort of way. They were grain and gravel, but that time we had the field truck go over. Very concerned about the firefighters and the containment and being able to shower off any contaminants and have all that. It was almost like a diaphragm to keep it from spreading in the river.
Just a comment on that. I think we need to go forward. We need to set up a meeting with Ariel, that oil spill cooperative, because they have those big trailers that are fully equipped for when you talk about a hydrocarbon spill, with showers, with booms, with everything. And it really surprises me they have not had conversations with municipalities to offer those services also, because they are fully equipped trailers with jet boats and everything. So I do think that that's something that needs to be followed up with the new council.
If I remember correctly, we waited for them or a company like them to come, and we waited, 2-3 hours for them to get on scene.
Typically, it used to be sitting in a trucking yard and it would be gone in a matter of just minutes.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Tender and Councillor Needs.
On the Content Bridge, on that corner, do they have directional signs around there, or is it just a curve sign?
I was there on the weekend, and I was looking at it, because you can definitely tell they've got new guardrail up. You can definitely tell where the trucks went. And they've kind of got these like kind of arrows, but maybe not the best signage. I don't think some people that aren't familiar with the area, I think that those trucks get rolling a little too fast, especially if they're loaded. And then that corner is almost impossible to take.
I bring up the incident on the south side of Cold Lake, Buttermilk Lake. They used to have just one curve sign there. And so it was brought to my attention about that, because the last incident was where actually a cattle liner went off the edge of the road, went over that embankment, that approach, which is about 6 or 8 feet high, and ended up about 20 feet away from that residence there. So he asked me about doing things. I phoned up Alan Nangle, and within 2 weeks' time, they had actually directional signs around there. And he said that nothing has happened. And then since then, so like now it's been about 5 or 6 years ago. So I'm just kind of wondering whether we can approach AT, and if they need larger directional signs, whether we can request that from them.
I think,
Might be also a speed limit.
yeah.
I think from what I understand is it's some new drivers that haven't taken that. That's a Skookum curve. When I take my bike on it, I quite enjoy it because I like curves on my bike, but the big truck has got a lot more wheels.
If you're doing the 60, that the speed limit is on the far east side, it shouldn't be an issue for anything, but.
Well, that's maybe needs to be bigger or blanketed, or maybe it needs, because 60 is actually a yellow sign, which is only a cautionary suggested sign. A white sign is a mandatory sign, so.
Oh, 60 is white now.
Is it now?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I haven't seen that, so
Yeah.
maybe that's,
I believe,
I thought the last time I was there, it was still a cautionary sign, so.
I glance at that sign every time I come in and it's wrong to make sure I'm there.
Take your yellow glasses off, Mr. Nyberg.
Oh, are you talking around Buttermilk Slough?
Yeah.
Or, I was talking about down at the, I was talking down at the river. Yeah, there you go.
Councillor Needs.
Will this trailer be equipped with emergency lights and reflective paneling and whatnot on the outside?
I would assume it'll be decked out like all the fire trucks.
Oh, just for safety.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be an issue.
Ask that question. Okay, thank you.
State of the art.
Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns? Councillor Gander?
So this trailer, Rick, is equipped with a bunch of signage? Different signs
Which one? The one that we did or the one that fire department's buying now?
that the county has?
Yeah, it's basically set up with all the signs and frames and barricades. If we had to do up to about a 6-mile detour, so that we can move traffic. If they move traffic onto a road that really shouldn't take the highway traffic, we can set things up to move them around to a different area on a 6-mile total. So,
We'll talk with you in event after when we've got some time. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Motion on the table, Councillor Needs. All in favor? Carried. Okay, unfinished business. Item number 8. 8.1 is the memo for railway crossings, page 49 of the package. It's been a popular conversation over the last year to 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll let Nikki and Rick speak to this. I think Nikki did quite a bit of work on this, and we had someone from Public Works coordinating with her, but they pretty extensive, and they've looked at all the railway crossings. They are still extremely rough, but.
Yes, so Public Works did go around and documented very closely the state of all the railway crossings that council has brought to our attention as being in disrepair. And we have been in touch with CP Row previously, who indicated they had come and attended to our railway crossing. So this is a follow-up to their response of having attended, that we are looking for some more commitment to come back and repair these crossings further. And this is the package that will go to them.
Councilman Iber?
I've been very much adamant about this because the two that are the biggest concerns with me are north aspect of Site 5. That's that is just an awful road to take. And then also of the south side of aspect Site 7, like that's lose your tire in that kind of hole there. And the Site 7 are, just so everybody knows, our crews were out there last year trying to fill some of these potholes and were literally chased away by the rail guys. Leave that alone. That's not your area. I think they said it was a 3-meter right of way that they have there, that's theirs. Well, if it's theirs, they better well fix it. So the problem with this is we're going into winter, and this is going to be, again, a problem come spring, even worse. This should be, I don't know how we put it as an emergency issue to CP. Like, if they're at the trade show in November and I'm still here and I'm able to go up there, I am definitely going to their booth and having a little coffee chit chat with them. I would love this package to go with me if I had that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other
Is
questions?
anybody else getting concerns? Or maybe I'm just, it's just my area that's a concern.
If I look at this, it's very much concern as I look through this, because I know when I used to run a grader for a different municipality, part of our job was to take the gravel up. We had to have shovels on our graders to spread out so that you properly spread the gravel. So to see the potholes and stuff, and to hear this, that there's that 3-meter right of way on each side is disgusting because it doesn't get fixed. Councilor Stewart?
I wonder, these are all CP crossings. Is there any issues with the Alberta Prairie crossings?
They're not in my area. Well, no, I guess they are, but no, absolutely not. They're actually really good to deal with.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
When we were paving, they were doing the overlay on the Fen Road, we shut the Fen Road down for a Sunday while they worked on the Fen crossing to make sure that it was rejuvenized, I guess.
Oh, okay. Sounds very good.
Councilor
I kind of look at these like they're intentionally neglecting them, and so it puts a liability onto, is it ourselves or should it be CP? So like there is definitely a concern here.
Any other questions? Councilor Nixon?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that council endorse the submitting of these studies to CP Rail.
With a strongly worded letter.
Thank you. Councilor Neitz?
Oh, I'd just like to say that they did come in and fix them, but they've loosened up again. So, yeah, they're.
When did they fix them? Because
It was quite a few months ago, but now they've loosened up, because I know I go across. At least 2 of them a lot.
the one right by, what you'd call Site 5 or Site 7. I don't know if they ever did fix it. They came in and I think they brushed some of the dirt off the boards, and then that was it. The crew sat there and looked at it. They were loose. They were loose and they tied them down, but they never did anything with what do you call it, an escarpment? Embankment? What do they call it when you come up to it? Escarpment or embankment? Apron? Sure. Okay. That's what I'll use.
Okay. Any other questions?
The road that butts up against it. And if it's a case that we need to fix it, I'm okay with it. Just give us permission.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, so what you see there on Site 5, I mean, that's, the bulk of that is definitely something we can fix. It is a result of the work that got done, and then the traffic that particular site takes from a farming operation that uses that road pretty exclusively with a lot of large trucks. But we will be getting in there this fall, if they haven't done it already, since these pictures were taken, and trying to fill the potholes and get it all set as we're going into our fall maintenance period. But they just keep coming back, and a large part of that was when they upgraded the rail, everything got lifted up. A lot of activity in there, in and around, that once you start something close to the rails and the planks, it just keeps walking away from that, because one little hole turns into 3 little holes in a big hurry, just with the addition of the traffic after the fact. So, but yeah, that particular one, and your site 7, I guess it was. I don't see any potholes specifically there right now, because we do hit it regularly. But yeah, we'll get around there and do some work on these this fall, yes.
At site 7, I was just over it, and it's a big one on the,
Back again, is it?
like, on the, would be on the south side of the railway tracks and on the, it'd be the east side of the road. It's 1-lane traffic, because everybody's driving down one.
Once that becomes a problem, now that we know they're essentially out of there with the rail, we have been trying to maintain them more often, but it just comes back 1 week, 2 weeks, it's back again, so.
Okay. Councilor Gender, you had your hand up?
So along with Mr. Nixon's motion there, do we also send that we are going to fix them this fall? Let them know that we are going to be working on it?
I think fix would be a improper word. We're going to maintain as best we can the condition. But I don't think that's called a fix. I mean, what needs to happen is the edges on either side of it need to be dug out, properly based, and set up to take the traffic, because as soon as you get a little bit of weakness in the spot, it just travels, right?
I would look at making the point very much aware to them that being that they are not going to look after our residents, we will look after our residents ourselves. Thanks, Ray.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we are, I guess we can do our 10.1 bylaw 1668-21 water and wastewater for first, second, and third readings, page 64.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the good news is the water is into Buffalo View Estates. And actually the line as far as we can go this year has been completed, and they have a couple of things to do. They were going to smooth off the pavement where the meter vault is so we can flush to Choke Cherry Lane, because that line will sit stagnant until Roshan Sands is ready to go. And we wanted to make sure that when we brought the water into the reservoir, well house, whatever you want to call it, at Buffalo View Estates, is that it fills up 2 tanks instead of 1, so we've always got a backup, and just going to position some pipe and some meter vaults in different places. The line's been flushed, it's been chlorinated, it's ready to go. The new tees for all the services that we dug up, looking for the leak, which we did find Friday afternoon. Should be here today or tomorrow. We'll have them in right away, and once the tees are in place, then we will switch over to the Shirley McClellan water. So, able to do that, we need to adjust our rate, and so the change to the water and sewer bylaw is to take it down to what everyone else pays for water. It was serviced by Shirley McClellan, which is, I think is, my computer's not working. I think it's $2.91 a cubic meter instead of $21.12.
That's all I was going to ask, is what they're paying, so it's like a tenfold drop in their water payment.
Yeah.
Where's John now?
Councilor Gender?
I think it's just one wondering, okay, so our partner that was supposed to go into Roshan Sands, they couldn't get it together?
Well, they're doing some design. They're trying to find a place for the truck fill water reservoir. I'm not sure what way they're going. They're looking at their future needs. I think in the new year, or even later on after all the elections are over, that we need to sit down and talk to them about it, and perhaps we can work with them to find an area. If they can't get the one that they want, maybe we could come up with some alternative sites for them.
Councilor Neves?
Well, I think this is great. The water price up there has been horrendous, so I think it's great that it's going down to $2.91. What?
How much tonight?
$2.91.
Have there been discussions with the provincial park? I know there's a large area down there.
Alberta Environment didn't want it to go down there. So they had to work around that. And then also they looked at putting it by the hall. But there's, I think they have some traffic and other logistic problems there. So also if they decide that they want to offer a distribution system to the summer village, they probably want to come off a reservoir so they have some pressure, or have it higher up so it'll gravity feed. And I think that's what they're looking at now.
Well, so the water's not going to the provincial park at all?
So there could be a line close there, maybe they'll put a hydrant. I haven't sat in on a lot of those meetings, but.
The provincial park doesn't want the reservoir on their property.
But they'll take the water.
They'll take the water. They'll take the potable water. They just don't want to store it.
Councilor Grow,
First reading.
Councilor Gender, you have your hand.
So budget wise for the line, we're coming on well on it.
Yeah, we seem to be under budget. This was a company that had been a sub to a lot of other companies, and this was one of their first major contracts, and they did an excellent job. We're all very pleased. They cleaned up as they went. There's hardly any cleanup left to do. They were respectful. I thought they did a great job. Stantec was impressed. We were impressed, and I wouldn't hesitate on recommending them for another project.
Councilor Needs.
I drove up there while they're in the middle of that, putting in the line, and then I drove up again last night, and yeah, the cleanup was really good.
They did a great job.
Okay, we have first reading on the table. All in favor? Councilor Stewart,
I'll move, we go to second reading. Second reading.
any questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried. Councilor Needs,
Third reading?
take us to third reading.
Oh, take us to third.
Yeah,
Go to the third reading.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Councilor Needs,
I'll move third reading.
Councilor Needs, third reading?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Okay, then we've got 10.2, general traffic bylaw for engine retarder brakes in hamlets.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I sent this out last night to you. It's an addition. So last week, we had a couple residents actually, and when Sherry was out talking to some of them, she also got concerns expressed to her about the engine retarder brakes. And with G3 going in, it seems to be worse, and they're throwing them on. They're very noisy. They rattle your doors and your windows, and it can get quite annoying. I am aware that this has been a concern for some time. I wasn't aware that this resident had brought this forward in December, but I think that was after I rolled the quad and was kind of out of service for a little while. But we had talked to commercial enforcement and Alberta Transportation, and basically they don't have anything to do with engine retarder brakes. And they basically say the only way that you could do it is if you lease the highway from them, or they give you permission. And so after I got an email from the resident in Erskine, I thought, I grew up in an area where the highways run right through towns, and both highways run right through Stellar. And I thought, well, there's no way a municipality is going to lease a highway from Alberta Transportation, because you have to pay for the maintenance of it. No one wants that bill. So I decided that it was time, instead of just taking no for an answer, that we dug in and did a little research. So we did. I read the Traffic Safety Act. If you can't sleep at night, I highly recommend it. And there did seem to be some areas that would accommodate this. So I then thought that maybe the problem is that the boundaries of the hamlet of Erskine especially ended at the north side of Highway 12. So I came to work the next day. I had a map made up, which I think is in the package, of the boundaries of Erskine. It actually extends to the south, which would have encompassed where the old elevator was. There it is right there. So because Highway 12 runs in the boundaries of Erskine, we have the ability to regulate it. I then talked to Alberta Transportation, and I had sent Mike Damberger an email on Friday. He was in Saskatchewan, and they actually drove back through Erskine to take a look so he could talk to me. And he agreed with me that we were well within our right to enforce. I also looked at some other municipalities who have highways running through their hamlets or villages, and they have regulated the use of engine retarder brakes. So I haven't told Shelley yet, but I did like that Flagstaff general traffic bylaw where it talked about engine retarder brakes. Also, Mike liked the way they had it worded in their bylaw, so I basically pirated some of Shelley's work, and I've amended our bylaw to allow us to start to enforce the use of engine retarder brakes within the limits. Now, I could have made it just for Erskine, but I thought we have other hamlets where we have highways that run through. Bymore is one. Secondary highway runs right up the side of Bymore. Botha has Highway 12 running right to the south of it. So I thought that I would include all 7 of our hamlets, and if the need arose, we could then start to enforce if these engine retarder brakes are being used and causing an annoyance to the residents that are living there.
Councilmember?
So this would encompass 835 as well going north. Can you just move the map to the north a little bit there?
Now there is.
Did we not change that boundary a little bit? I thought we changed the boundary for.
Just the electoral boundary,
Oh, okay.
not the boundary of the hamlet. That's pretty well decided when it's
But
when hamlet.
But we did change the speed limit up there. We moved the speed limit north, but I'm not, did we just put the signs in the ATs right away kind of?
Right, and AT would have put those signs up for us. So there is 3 engine, the big signs that say, truckers, please, avoid using your engine retarder brakes. There's one on the north boundary, there's one on the west boundary, and one on the east. There isn't one on the south. Mike said that Alberta Transportation would work with us to take those signs down, put up new ones that say, avoid. They'll be enforced and strictly prohibited. And then we'd have to put a new one up on the south coming from G3. I put
Is the one on the south the necessary one as far as there's no residents down there, just for lack of, they're already utilizing it. That one's you're nowhere near it.
I think what saves us down there is they slow down for the railway too, right? So that probably keeps them, but when they're coming from the east, from Stettler, bit of a hill, and they come in, they realize all of a sudden it's a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit, and they hit that engine retarder brake and wake everybody God up, I'm sure. Anyway, most fines are $250, so that's what I put as a suggestion for a penalty. And I think that we could get these signs, we'll work with that transportation. Mike said that they get them up as fast as we could. But in the meantime, we could get a press release out, notifies the companies that we are going to be enforcing the use of engine retarder brakes within the hamlet of Erskine.
All hamlets.
Councilman Jenner?
I would suggest also putting it south in James, because if you're doing, let's say, half a mile prior to, if you're doing 80 clicks and you're loaded, you start using it then. So that
Well, and I have no problem with it, Ernie. The only thing is, it's the design of the road. You are probably almost a quarter of a mile back by the time out of the hamlet when you would want to be slowing down. So most of them are coming over the lake, and you've got an S curve where they slow down, and then you've got a fairly big intersection of going into the transfer site and the G3. So when they get through there, they've already slowed down. I see the straight out highways on both sides. I get that. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying I don't know if there's a necessity out of it coming out of it. if you're going fast through that S curve, you're probably using more than a Jake brake to slow down when you get there.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna put up 3, might as well put
Yeah,
up.
no, I have no problem. That was just my comment on it more than anything. If we could save $1 on a couple of signs, it's the tax dollar.
Is AT gonna be?
That's still our money.
We have to pay.
But like Mike said, the 3 are up, so we just have to replace the hard signage, I guess, the board.
It's only one taxpayer.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to apologize to the residents of Erskine. We shouldn't have just settled for the pat. No, you can't do it. We should have dug in a little deeper, and I hope this makes things a lot more pleasant for them in the future.
Councilor Needs.
I'd like to thank administration for moving on this, because I know when I was there a couple weeks ago, the one truck going through there I've heard a lot of Jake brakes. This one was insanely loud, and they said this one goes through there frequently. So I started talking to administration about what we could do, and then we got this email again. And so I'm grateful that Alberta Transportation worked with us too, to be able to do something like this, because it was really loud, very disruptive. So.
Would I be exempt?
No.
I was asking if it was your truck, Ernie.
Guess I lost track on that one, but, okay, is it a $250 every time? Or is it gonna be, if it's gonna be a repeat, do we get the message across?
You get 4 fines in a week, that's $1,000. You would think that it would start to hit home.
Councilor Stewart.
Yeah, I'll move first reading of this bylaw.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Question, Mr. Chairman, through to Yvette. Where does that appear in the traffic bylaw?
It's under miscellaneous, because ours is set up a lot different than other municipalities. Ours is geared more to road use agreements and more technical stuff that we're using. So in the miscellaneous column in the bylaw is where I put it right at the end. It kind of encompasses all the. There's a definition, if you go through, there's a definition of hamlet, which I put in, which includes all 7 of our hamlets now. And then if you Jared, if you just keep going up, because I can't get my computer anymore.
Up or down?
Up. Keep going. No, sorry, the other way.
The other way.
Yeah. And it's right at the end. I think it's under miscellaneous.
Well, I saw that at the end, but I hadn't noticed any place else before where it's unlawful to use retarder brakes within a hamlet limits or whatever. But
Yeah, so under miscellaneous, I think it's 10 point, I can't remember. Can you keep going? There we go. It's coming up. This kind of encompasses all the other places that we didn't really have a class for. Flagstaff's bylaw has a class that says engine retarder brakes, and then they have one sentence underneath it. And I just thought I would throw it into this one. I also ran this by legal to make sure that it was lawful and that wouldn't cause me any problems with somebody disputing it, and they were fine with it. There it is, 10.22. Yeah, really simple. No person shall use an engine retarder brake within a hamlet of the county of Stellar number 6. And then at the very end is just, I added to the penalties, the $250 fine.
Councilor Jenner.
If it's only states that in, say, like the bylaws, and someone's going through it, should it not be posted? Even if it's a small little sign?
Right, like the town of Stettler sign says that there is a $250 fine, so we could ask for that on ours.
$500 fine, isn't it?
No, it's 250. I saw it today when I made sure I looked at it.
If council approves this bylaw, we'll work with transportation to make sure the signs say what we want them to say.
Okay, we have first reading. All in favor? Carried. Councilor Jenner. Okay. Questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried.
Take it to third.
We'll take it to third, Councilor Nyland. All in favor? Councilor Needs, you'll do third?
Yep.
Okay. favor? Carried.
So, not that they are at any issue, but maybe we could send a notice to our partner at G3 to just, more than anything, I don't want anybody to be caught off guard. If they would just send a notice, hey guys, you know what? Have the respect for our residents in Erskine. Please don't do it. And if you're going to, here's what's going to come down the pipe. Unfortunately, it's a carrot and stick, and we've tried to say thanks, but don't do that. And now we have to, unfortunately, and I'll tell you what, there's hundreds of trucks that go in there, hundreds, and it's just one or two bad actors, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought about that this morning when I came in, is that we will just notify them that we've changed it.
And do it in a way that, so that it's not, like we're not at all at odds with them on this. We're just doing it to help them inform their people.
It may not hurt also, but there's Erskine Colony being right there also. You know, because they were one of the neighbors right adjacent, and they'd have a lot of trucks going in up there too.
Yeah.
That's Councilor.
Would it be possible to put up a sign, say like on where they're coming out of G3, that jake breaks are prohibited within Hamlet?
They'll hit them anyhow, but like, not hit them physically, but
They'll actually come up to them on the highway, so.
Either like going in so that, because if they're in a line up there, you're gonna definitely have some time, or when they come out to the stop sign, just have a Hamlet heads up.
Less signs, the better. They're gonna have. You're on a sign kick. Quit being on a sign kick. I'm anti-sign today.
Okay. We've got, now we're to reports. Chief Administrative Officer's Report, page 81 of our package. Everybody had a chance to review this. Is there any questions or concerns on this? Councilor Burley, you move it. Councilor Bender?
I'm just wondering, just give me some time to figure through this thing. And so which page do we stop on? Get through all of Rick's pictures, 1,000 words.
It should be over on page 156.
I'll just say like hats off to the amount of roads that Rick has been working on. So to date, or like this year, like you're pulling an awful lot of reshaping shoulder pulls, Rick. Do you have any miles or approximate miles that you have accomplished this year?
No, not specifically, because we've been trying a bunch of different things with different people in different locations, just to sort of hone the skills and see what we get in different environments. We didn't do any hard rejuves like we did last year, just didn't really have a lot of time for it. But a lot of the change to the gravel program kept us hopping with that as the alternative to a full rejuve. Working a lot of that in, we've got more graders working with the gravel program to work the roads in, and working after the fact, trying to get some water into the roads so they can receive the gravel better, because we didn't get much in the way of rain this year, and things are pretty dry and hard out there.
That was my biggest question, say like on the old trail this year. It was questions on say like the rock that we put onto it. So it was kind of an explanation that I gave to him, is that all we had choice was between say like this 1.5 inch structure gravel that works great in structure, but this year we had to watch our budget. It was either a choice between that or say like poor quality 3/4 inch that we were putting on say like in years past. This year with the lack of moisture, the rock did not go in. If we'd have had rain, it would have been angels. But this year we've been having a few strips tore off my backside. But if we would have put down the 3/4 inch, we'd have been looking like angels this year. But then if it had rained, we'd have been cursed. So we're caught between a rock and whatever.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
If I may on that too, Larry?
Yes, go ahead.
Just to reiterate as well, I think I sent everybody out this a little while back. What we did use this year is an approved standard surface graveling spec. It is the top size, it's common around the province. It's an Alberta transportation specification for this. And I've encountered it in many counties, even this summer, as I've been touring around on many roads. So it's not like we're doing something completely different than everybody else. And we have discussed this at our municipal supervisors meetings in the past about what different counties are doing to maintain their roads and provide strength in them. And it's a conversation we did have a while back at budget time. So it's not something that, is abnormal. And it is correct use of the material. It just happens to be the top rock size of specification for surface and gravel. So.
Thank you.
Also, if I may, Mr. Chairman, Rick and I have had a lot of discussion because we've had a lot of concerns brought to us. If we would have had a crystal ball back in April and realized that it wasn't going to rain, I don't know if we'd gravel this year. Probably would have did some patch graveling, some repairs, but probably shut the gravel program down because of the lack of moisture. It's not working. Unfortunately, we just don't have the option of not budgeting for something that we don't know is going to happen. It's like we budget for snow removal. Some winters we have a lot, some winters we have none. But yeah, as dry as it is and as awful as the dust is out there, I doubt if we would have graveled this year.
If I may to back that up as well, we've removed a lot of miles from the program sort of in the last couple of months, just because we go to the roads and the lack of rain didn't eat up all that gravel that it normally does. So we have a lot of gravel still sitting on top from previous years. So yeah, we're eliminating miles, saving money as we go as well. Some you'll probably notice on the rehash of the budget sort of at year end kind of a thing is, there should be a fair bit of substantive savings on that end of things as well. And we've also been adding a few miles as required when we find something that didn't work the way it should have been or may have needed more gravel. So a lot of changing on the fly out there.
Council Stolberg.
Just a comment on pages 139 to 142 of the report. I think that's a nice bit of intermunicipal cooperation and with our partnership with the town to assist with the hydro seeding of the new addition to the skate park. So that was like a nice little gesture.
Thank you. Council Gender.
I'll say after about the first 3 days, I got asked some of them any concerns, and yes, it was a gravel. After that, when I would approach them and say, okay, anything other than the gravel. Yes, the point has been well driven home, but it is something that we did. We all live together. We are all going to have to face it and then see what we can change for time. I do thank you very much, Rick, for the attempts that you have put onto some of these roads for making this available to the ratepayers.
We have a motion on the table to accept the report. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, financial report.
Yeah, you have a booster seat.
I gotta get one of those ones you can push the button.
No, this thing doesn't have a crank on it, so I can't go back.
So 11.21, 11.22, 11.23, and 11.24, the financial reports, which are accounts payable register, bank reconciliation, August 31st, 2021. Reserves, August 31st, 2021, and year-to-date budget, August 31st, 2021. Pages 157 to 178 of our package. Councilor Gender.
Here's on page 159. EFT 5523. I know I've been asking for the last few months is because of our legal fees. Are they slowing up? Are they continuing on? Are we getting any relax in there?
I think that
They are working on one. I think we have one ongoing court application, which I think is scheduled to be heard in November. We do have a lawsuit outstanding against us, but our insurance company is looking after that. So we just get updates on it. We're not responsible for the costs for that lawsuit or any payouts if that's what was the way it would go. I think that bill would probably mostly be for the ongoing action to be heard in November.
I just look at the reports coming in and we're sitting about 200%. So I'm just kind of wondering when it comes time for budget time, we lot the same as past or do we up?
I'm hoping that, that we can put it down, but we always have to be careful that we protect all, 5,500 county residents, so that they're not going to be, if we miss something or didn't have something checked out, or got legal advice, and our insurance company won't back us, and we have to make sure, especially now when people are so anxious to look for fault and look to sue, that we have our proverbial butts covered, and that our insurance company will always come in and make sure that that doesn't come out of operations or reserves, that the insurance is what pays.
Counselor Divers, that question?
Well, and the way that I understand it, we actually have a judgment in our favor to recoup some of those legal costs. The individual has disputed that, and I think when that finalizes, I'm very confident that we will see a large number of that dollars come back to us. Unfortunately, that's the cost of doing business when people will not comply. And like Yvette said, we can't afford to be wrong because we have to protect all 5,526 residents in the county of Stettler. Even the ones that won't comply, we're protecting them. So I'm very confident in the information that I've seen that we will get a very large chunk of that money back. So, we've already got one ruling in our favor, and usually it takes a lot to overturn that. So I don't think they'll be very successful, but they have their due course.
Every application that if we end up going to court, we always ask for costs. That's just the way we do business.
Counselor Gender?
That's the point that I've had several questions asked, about the bill that's from the lawyers. And it's one that I state that, correct me if I'm wrong, Yvette, but it's one that if we do not seek legal advice, we go about it on our own. We've got insurance that will cover us, but if we do not seek legal, we're held liable for it. So we have to go after the legal part and then hopefully go for the costs after that.
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Meats?
I know we've also been asked about mediation costs,
Yeah.
and we were able to get a grant for that.
Yes, I think to date, the mediation costs have been right around the $35,000 mark. I was able to get a grant up to $50,000 to pay 1/3 of all mediation costs. So one half of the mediation costs, sorry. So right now at 35, the grant will cover 17 of that. So that leaves 17,000 to be split between the county, White Sands, and Roshan Sands.
So there were some erroneous statements made about that costing us $150,000 for mediation. Where would that number have come from?
It could have been a misunderstanding because originally the grant that was available for mediation was a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. But I was able to get a different grant, which we were able to access more money, and it's a 50% grant. So
It's only 35,000. Was the area what did the area structure plan cost us?
I haven't put the numbers together, but I know when I got a cost on it before we went forward. And you have to remember that when we started that process, that we started early. That was number one, a review of the Buffalo Lake South Shore IDP, which then turned into the South Shore Area Structure Plan when we couldn't come to terms on amending the South Shore Buffalo Lake IDP. Oh, those are long names. So at that time, we got a cost estimate of, I think, between $70,000 and $90,000. I was able to divert a grant that actually belonged to Gadsby. But because the county, when they became a hamlet, we did the work that the grant was supposed to do. And I thought I was going to have to pay it back, but I was lucky enough to persuade them that because I took staff time and did the work that the grant was supposed to cover, that I could keep the grant and put it towards a planning function. So I was able to get $20,000 of grant that will come off the cost of the review of the IDP or or what it is now, the subshore area structure plan.
So the 150,000, I'm not sure where that number came from, but it seems quite pulled out of the air.
From there.
Aye.
Yeah, no, and unfortunately, that is part of what we have to deal with, is so much misinformation out there. It's hard to get it out, but thank you for that, Yvette. You're very well done.
Council Jenner?
Are we doing page 170?
No.
No, not yet. On page 170, what the heck, right near the bottom, the fifth one up, it'd be 25,000 land compensation.
About 7,000, 25.
Yeah.
Oh, the number, 7,000, that would be probably compensation for, land that we purchased when we were, doing the Botha drainage. Or any, or it could be,
It would probably be best if,
yeah, I can look into it.
let's get the right information and give it. No problem.
Okay, Chris will look that up, she's.
Any other questions on the finances?
On page
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Jenner.
171 for the bridges, 25,320. Did we put a few more in than what we were expecting, or the bridge is falling apart that much faster?
No, what we've done is we've lumped all the expenses into one, and then the revenue from the grant comes into the revenue side, and when it nets out, it's lower. We had a little more to do than what we thought we had at the end of last year, so that's just fallen over, but they are still well within the budget that we had when we got the grants, which was $200,000 each, and the grant money, I've got 3 final SFEs to do. I did the other 3, which they totally paid out on. I just have the 3 left to do, and that will come down.
Super.
Okay, you got one more?
Page 172. 2424, fluvial water purchase. I think that's gonna be kind of a heck of a change in our budgetary item.
Yes, yes.
See it? And on page 173, number 25230. It's for vehicle and equipment repair. I'm just kind of wondering, are we miling out these vehicles that they're taking a little bit more repairs?
We've hit a couple deer. 42. Yeah, we've hit a couple deers, and we have had some problems deer hunting. Yeah. I'm not sure why that year to date is so high, but I can get Krista to look into that also. Yeah.
And if we paid for the repairs and we get reimbursed by the insurance company on that particular deer yet?
That's what I'm guessing. Yeah, the insurance revenue could be in the revenue account, not the expense account, but I'll have Krista check it out.
We also did a fair bit of motor work on one of the trucks earlier on.
That's what I'm concerned about. They do put a lot of mileage on, and they are very much a necessity. That if they start getting miled out like that, or start putting too much repairs into them, maybe it's time to turn them around. Some vehicles don't last, and others do.
Council Stillberg?
All the questions are done.
You got one more, Ernie?
Oh, that's okay. I'll wait.
On page 175, the Rural Development Fund, okay, 14706. I'm just looking for a comment on that one there.
The lights in Erskine.
I believe it's because, like, we look at the numbers on how much development has been done in the county with the contributions. It's great to be able to see those numbers coming up. Somebody loves Settler or the county.
That's one where we have no idea where we're gonna go, how many subdivision applications we're gonna have or anything like that. So we used to budget $100, and I said, I think we're really low. So we've now budgeted 10, and that's just a number that we have no idea if we're going to hit it or exceed it every year since we've had the Rural Development Fund. We've exceeded it. So yeah, we've got to date $40,000.
On a memo that that minute sent out, they showed the numbers of what we did last year, the previous year compared to this year.
Yeah.
It's surprising to see the numbers that have come in. It's great to see.
I go Councilor Stolberg, no?
Down onto the,
Yeah.
You could have submitted these, Councilor Gander. So the answers were prepared.
number 22210, advertising under the expenses. It's more than what we.
Oh, that's under planning and development. Advertising, of course, when we have more development permits and more subdivisions, we have to do more advertising. That's,
So we've been busy.
yes, we have been. Our subdivisions are up, our development permits are way up from what they were a year ago. And yeah, and especially with, we have to give 2 weeks notice on everyone. And so that's why the big increase.
But also back to our previous comment for the revenue column also. Councilor Stolberg.
I'd just like to point out on the bank rec, the county's bank balance 1 year ago was $8.95 million. And same time this year is 11.87 million, so almost $3 million higher. So I think the taxpayers' funds have been pretty well managed this past year, and the county is recouping after a really bad period of time in the oil industry. So it's nice to see we're heading in the right direction. And with that, I'd like to move that the financial reports be accepted as presented.
Okay. All in favor? Count, you got one more?
I was just saying, I don't know.
No, we're already voting.
It wasn't until last night I got onto the back, so I couldn't send all the questions out. Been a little on the busier
If
side.
it goes into next term, you better make sure you put your questions in.
I'm voting.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, 11.3 Councilor fee sheets, page 178 of the package.
I'll move those, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Nixon. Any questions or concerns? Having gone through them? Councilor Stolberg?
I guess just a comment on mine. There seemed to be an issue with one of mine from last month, so I donated that per diem back because I definitely am not here for the money, and I do a lot of freebies, and almost every one of my half-day meetings is truly a one-day meeting, so I donate those half-days for the last 3 terms, and I donated back that per diem.
Councilor Stolberg, I saw that this morning when I was looking through this, but I also noted you never charged for council of the whole.
That's okay. Like I say, every once in a while I give a freebie too.
Yeah, no, but you hadn't charged for it either, so.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that one.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we have motion on the table to move. All in favor? Carried. Council committee report. We've got our list of reports plus 2 from Cherie. And was that a paper copy handed to everybody? Okay, thank you. Any questions on any of the reports? Councilor Grover? Councilor Stolberg?
I just have a comment on the library report. Their annual fall wine survivor fundraiser is on right now. And it's, I can't remember the date, but it's in my report in November is the last day to get your tickets anyway. So it's a virtual one now. You don't even have to attend. You can just go online and contribute your $30 or $35, and then you're into the wine survivor fundraiser, and you got a chance to win a year or 2 of supply of wine. It's an annual one that they do. It's quite popular, so I just want to make sure everybody knows it's happening again.
Thank you, Councilor Stolberg. Councilor Needs?
I already had his hand up.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'm going to shine from that corner. You'll be in.
Just on the Rural Crime Prevention Committee, our new staff sergeant that's filling in right now, it's really great. He gives you definitions of different areas that, such as, I don't know if you noticed last time the definitions, but they'll give you definitions for some of the drugs and stuff that people are on, and physically dependent or whatnot. And then Another thing that we're discussing is maybe a virtual coffee with the cock, so you can do that in the comfort of your own home. And we feel that that's important for people to be able to communicate with RCMP and peace officers, and that they can help them with some of their questions, or help them with maybe some areas that they might have concern around their places, to make them less desirable for thieves to come in. So we feel like that might be a good idea. I know our Clint is going to check into that, see if we can set that up. So that's another area that we're discussing. With our Buffalo Lake IDP, we are writing a letter to Alberta Environment and Parks to get more definitions on their mooring policy, the disturbance standard that they sent out. We felt it's important to have them come and talk to us and bring representatives from the government to discuss that. We're also getting together with the Buffalo Lake management team and inviting them to a meeting. So not only is a letter being sent out, but a meeting will be established sometime this fall, hopefully. And in our last meeting with Buffalo Lake management team, we had some good news. The Gull Lake Society has had engineers working on a filter system to filter out carp eggs. And so they've done quite a few tests last summer and then this summer again. And Alberta Environment attended those, and they were quite pleased with the last results. And so hopefully they'll be able to start pumping water into their lake system, and if it works, it might come over to Buffalo Lake. Because I know Buffalo Lake the water level has drastically gone down this past year. We haven't pumped since 2010 because the water level has been holding steady. But I know this year it's gone down quite a bit. So if these filters really do work that well, they're going to look at doing something like that for Buffalo Lake.
Thank you. Councilor Gender.
Like with this filtering system, is that only going to be catching the fish? I'm just kind of wondering to take if there's eggs.
It's for the eggs mostly. Yeah, it'll filter. Well, the fish won't be able to get through, but it stops the eggs. Because Alberta Environment did a lot of tests on different devices, and it was able to stop the fish, but the eggs were still going through. So Gull Lake Society, they had an engineer design this, and it stops the eggs. So that was reassuring to hear that, because that was the biggest concern, was the eggs going through.
Okay. Do you have another question?
Just back to Les, like you're saying this on, they call it wine survivor?
Yeah.
Okay, you survived the wine, then you're.
They've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, maybe, or more.
Well, anyways, they put the whole name kind of go in the hat, and as they pull out names, you're out of luck, sort of thing. So whoever survives the last,
Not the one.
and actually, I think it's split down to the last three. So
Yeah.
one person doesn't get all the wine, the last three, the ones that survive the pulls, the last three or something that survive the pulls will have a supply of wine.
That's a bad question.
Not the sampling.
Yeah, we have a motion on the table to accept the reports. All in favor? Carried.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have answers to Bernie's questions. Krista got right back to me. So the land compensation, the $7,000, that was for crop damages with the Red Willow sewer lagoon. And those were paid according to policy. And the repairs in water and sewer to do with insurance deductible and some repairs that had to be done. And yes, she said the vehicles are aging and we are seeing some higher repair costs.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to take a recess for lunch? Because I think we're at that point in time that it seems like the right spot.
If lunch is here.
Well, I think either or, I think we,
No, it's not yet. It is. I think we're pretty close. It should be here shortly. So yeah, that should work fine. And we'll be back at one sharp for the public hearing.
because the next section is an in camera anyways, so. I will make a motion to recess then, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All in favor? Carried.
No, we have to prove the bylaw.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. First item for this afternoon is public hearing for bylaw 1667-21, land use bylaw, Gatsby cancellation of road, page 5 of the package. And we need to, I'll now declare the public hearing open as of 1:04 p.m. And I would ask the administration read into the record the councilors and staff attending the meeting. Members of the public making submissions will be asked to introduce themselves at the time of the submission. Nikki.
Bylaw 166721, the County of Stettler has prepared bylaw number 166721. Council gave first reading to bylaw 166721 at the September 8th, 2021 council meeting. The bylaw is now being circulated for further review. Bylaw number 166721 is to propose a bylaw for the purpose of closing public travel on a portion of Prairie Avenue in the hamlet of Gatsby and creating title to portions of public highway in accordance to section 22 of the Municipal Government Act, chapter 26, revised statutes of Alberta 2000 as amended. A public hearing on the proposed bylaw has been scheduled for October 13th, 2021 at 1:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter electronically. Copies of the proposed bylaw 166721 are available on the county website at www.stettlercounty.ca. You're welcome to join the public hearing in the following ways: in person at the County of Stettler No. 6 Administration Building, Council Chambers, on YouTube, www.youtube.com/Stettler County, by Zoom, www.stettlercounty.ca/Zoom, by phone, 587-328-1099, meeting ID 237-185-7702. Passcode 660244. The hearing will be chaired by the Reeve. Persons wishing to join by teleconference will be requested to state their name and address for the record upon being recognized by the chair. Council will hear verbal or written submissions from any person who claims to be affected by the proposed bylaw. Persons may make oral presentation in person, via Zoom, or via teleconference at the hearing, regardless of whether or not they have provided written comments prior to the hearing. A copy of the proposed bylaw is available on the county website at www.stettlercounty.ca. Comments on the bylaw may be submitted prior to the public hearing up to October 5th, 2021. For more information about the proposed bylaw or the upcoming public hearing, or to send in comments, please contact Sharon Larson, Tax and Assessment Clerk, County of Stettler No. 6, Box 1270, Stettler County, Alberta, TOC 2LO, email slarson@stettlercounty.ca, or by phone 403-742-4441, extension 124, dated September 8th, 2021.
Thank you, Nikki. Could I ask you to read into the record the councilors and staff attending the meeting, and members of the public making submissions will be asked to introduce themselves at the time of submission?
No.
I have councilors James Nyberg, Les Stolberg, Wayne Nixon, Dave Grover, Cherie Nates, Ernie Gender, and then I have Reeve Larry Clark. And at the back of the room, we have Executive Secretary Marlene Hansen. Tax Clerk is Sharon Larson. I have the Director of Public Works, which has a name change, Rick Green. What is it? Sorry, Director of Operations, Rick Green. And then I have Jarrett Kushner, who is the Manager of IT. And myself, Nikki Thorstensen, Director of Communications. Sorry.
Thank you, Nikki. The rules of conduct for this public hearing shall be as follows. Written submissions shall be tabled first and read into the record. Verbal submissions shall be considered second. To present verbally, please call into the meeting. The instructions for doing so can be found on the cover page of the agenda package and on screen now or on your YouTube broadcast. Verbal submissions shall be limited to 5 minutes. Councilors may ask questions of the speaker after each presentation for clarification purposes. There shall be no debate between participants throughout the public hearing, and any questions from the floor shall be addressed through the chair. I will now call for any written submissions in support of the proposed bylaw. Chair.
I've not received any written submissions. I received one phone call from ratepayer, Carrie Poche, and I have responded back to her. Her inquiry was what it was all involving.
Okay, thank you. So if we had none in support, we also had none in opposition. Okay. Okay. So do we have anybody online? I guess we'll wait just for a minute or so to see if there is anybody going to call in for verbal submissions in support or in opposition of the bylaw.
We gotta get music for this,
Yeah,
honestly. I
we gotta-
just, seriously,
music or something.
just so that it doesn't look like we're just standing around.
Yeah.
I'd sing, but trust me,
We didn't ask either.
you've heard me sing.
You sing solo?
Yeah,
So we can hear you?
they won't let me sing happy birthday anymore at my family function.
Little kids cry?
Still nothing heard? Okay. We should be good with that, Nikki. Okay. Sharon, is there anything else or presentation to give clarification to public hearing?
The road closure is based on some encroachment of buildings onto the roadway. And we would like to correct this if possible through closing a portion of the roadway. And the portion that gets closed by the encroachment, area of the encroachments will be eventually added into that ratepayer's parcel of land. Currently, right now, it will be into the county's name, and then it will be added into the parcel of the proposed lots.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from council? Seeing no other submissions or questions, I will now declare the public portion of the public meeting closed at 1:11 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Councilor Nyberg?
I would like to give you second reading for the bylaw that we just, you're gonna have to give me the numbers again, sorry.
Just a second.
It's 1667-21.
Thank you, 1667-21 for second reading.
Before we can give it second and third reading, we needed to do the public hearing and to see if we had any requests through that. This information now gets sent to Alberta Transportation. We get approval through the Alberta Transportation. Once everything is done there, then we can bring it back for second and third reading.
I thought we
had to do that first before we could send it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I clarified that, so the council that motion for.
I'll pull that off the table.
Pull that off the table. Okay, thank you very much, Sharon. Okay, we will go to.
Consent camera now?
All right, we should be able to get through the consent agenda.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Consent agenda items. 12.1, letter from the town of Crossfield, Bill 61, changes to Criminal Code and Firearms Act. Stettler Public Library, September update. 12.3 is Stettler Public Library, read financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2020. 12.4, letter from the town of Sundre, Royal Canadian Mounted Police retroactive pay. 12.5, letter from the town of Sundre, Code of Conduct. And 12.6, municipal affairs and municipal indicators, which is 214 in our package. It starts at 199. Councilor Grover?
Received for information.
Do we have any questions on it? Councilor Gender?
On the code of conduct, is the provincial government looking at pulling it out we don't have any control over it. What are they looking at doing with it?
The code of conduct is, that is on page
213.
213. And flip that up. The letter back is from their last town council meeting on September 7th. Council discussed correspondence received from the town of Claresholm regarding the importance of continuing to keep council code of conduct bylaw requirement as a legislative requirement. They would like to stand, town of Sundre would like to stand in solidarity with the town of Claresholm, along with them respectfully request that your ministry make sure the consultation with municipalities in Alberta is completed. So I haven't seen anything back from RMA on this, so.
I haven't seen anything.
But I was expecting, and we have an RMA meeting tomorrow, so I was gonna, that question was gonna ask there,
Or Friday.
Friday.
on Friday, pardon me, it's not tomorrow, Friday.
I'm just kind of wondering, is it some, say like concerned ratepayers that are looking at getting rid of this, that they have control over city council? Or?
I don't know, but like, we never saw the letter that came from Claresholm, we just saw the one that came from Sundre. So like I said, I wanted to see it at the RMA meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Any other questions? Have a motion on the table to receive them this information. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're having in-camera session. Councilor Silver.
Camera.
All No?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we enter into a tax agreement with the company, oil company, as prescribed.
Okay, any questions, concerns? All in favor?
Sheree?
I didn't hear you, sir.
Oh, you can't, it's not, look. Yeah, can you hear me? And that's for the lots. That's the next one more.
Yeah, 13.2 is for the lots.
Make a motion to accept the request for the lots in Erskine. Do I say the price or
Prescribed amount.
prescribe that?
Is it in with a pie?
Okay. Any questions, concerns? All in favor? Carried. Were you, was your hand up or you?
He's still thinking.
Okay. Yeah, you're a little behind your screen too. Please sit up. Okay, 13.3.
I'll make the motion that we decline the offer to purchase, to sell ER to the fact that we're not allowed to sell it by the MGA.
Any questions, concerns? All in favor? Okay. We've got now 12.6. Counselor Nixon would like to.
Well, certainly. Yeah, this, fellow counselors and staff, this is my last county meeting. I have a meeting tomorrow, actually, on with
Grab your mic, so we can hear you.
Okay.
Your other counselors are deaf.
Oh, they need to be replayed. I did put my hearing aids in today just so I wouldn't miss anything. So I wouldn't sleep through some of the things that are going on. But anyway, no, I just sort of maybe take a few minutes and reflect on my years as counselor with the county. And I just want to say to start off with that, in my opinion, and not just my opinion, but the county of Stettler is a well-run, professionally run organization. And I am proud to have been part of it for the past 14 years. So, as you know, before I even came on council, things had turned around with when Tim Fox took over as CEO, and from then on, we've had clean audits thanks to Tim, Yvette, and their staff. And I just want to thank Tim and Yvette for mentoring me through my first years and continuing to do so for an Yvette and Andrew also in the past few years. Through all my 14 years, and I still could use some mentoring, Yvette. But no, I thank you very much for that. So always very professional. And one thing I won't forget that Tim said to me before, you know, you guys be as transparent as you can. And if you can deal with something in public, deal with it in public. And I thought that was very good advice. And I've tried to encourage that. So the county is, and I want, this is for Yvette and her staff, you know, they work such wonders at budgeting. And, you know, sometimes we send it back 2 or 3 times to the department heads. Sorry about that, Rick, but, you know, we keep making you cut your budgets if we need to. And by gosh, they can do it if they need to too. But we've made it work for these years, and we've ended up with a pretty healthy reserves again. So that's really encouraging. I think people of the county of Stettler should take note of that. Some of the things that I've seen accomplished, I guess, in my years here are, I guess, number one, because it was my area, was the Denalda Fire Hall. Unfortunately, it's closed for the time, but it's going to open again because there's lots of interest that I've drummed up with some young people who were eager to start up a fire service in Denalda again. So that's encouraging to hear. But that was something that we were supposed to have been done by the town of Denalda, and the CEO at that time didn't jump on it right away. So Tim said to Phil Holton, Phil, take that over and make it happen. And he did. He hit the ground running, and, you know, within a year, that thing was being built. We did a few trips around the central Alberta, looked at a few fire stations, and drew up some plans, and it happened. And so that was, I don't believe anything ever happened quite that quickly again, but no, that, I was pretty impressed with that. And I think a lot of people were as well. The county shop, that was a big thing, you know, and it was controversial, but you know, we went with it, and it has shown itself to be a huge service to the county of Stettler and the residents of the county of Stettler, and a source of pride for the residents of the county of Stettler as well. And a great source of pride for the people who have to work there and eat their lunch there and pretty much live there most of their lives. I guess another thing that was an accomplishment while I was on council, and several of my fellow councillors were part of this as well, was the rec agreement with the town of Stettler. That was a big thing, you know, and there's always a bit of rivalry and but this thing was kind of a millstone around our neck sort of thing, the rec agreement. But we went to work on that and persevered and came to an agreement that worked for the both of us. We went to mediation, and I'm sure the mediators were kind of puzzled, because here these guys from two different sides were sitting and talking about, you know, personal things, and they probably wondered, why are we sitting here mediating? Because these guys seem to get along very well. Well, they were our friends, and they were people we did business with every day, but they helped us through the mediation, and we arrived at an agreement that I'm sure that has made a huge difference in the relationship of the town and the county of Stettler, and I'm proud I was part of that. And I guess I should, when I get into thank yous, I guess first of all I should thank the ratepayers in my area for putting me up to this job. They sort of threw my hat into the ring for me, so to speak, but I really enjoyed it. So, and they have been very supportive, as have all the residents of the county of Stettler have been supportive of me as a councillor, and when I was a Reed, very supportive. So you have a few people that you know, complain, and a few people even swore at me once or twice, but you know, and I probably reciprocated, but because I guess at that time I was unable to ask Nikki whether I should respond or not. I couldn't resist that one. So no, I thank them for that. Secondly, and probably more importantly, I would like to thank my wife Lori for sticking by me and going to all the events with me, and being a gracious host and all those sort of things. And I like to kid her a little bit about, because she was a hairdresser in her former life, and whenever I had to appear in public, I would thank her for, you know, putting a little gray in my hair to make me look more distinguished. She's had to do less and less of that in the past, but and also, I might add, for over 48 years, she's been my personal hairdresser. So thank you, dear, and I appreciate all that. The administration and staff have been so great to me here, and I've made many friends, even though you can't call them friends, I guess, but as a counselor and staff relationship, but they've been so good to me, and I certainly appreciate that. They have been more than supportive. And I do have a John MacArthur story, because whenever I spoke at anything like a Christmas party or something like that, I would tell a joke, and John would be the character in the joke, and he had a good sense of humor, and he enjoyed it, I think. But anyway, I remarked to him one day, said, John, you guys run a good organization, but it would be so much better if it wasn't for us 7 counselors there to impede you. And he said, I'm not going to touch that one with a 10-foot pole. So, and John was a good guy. And we all remarked about that today. You know, we go out to Tim Hortons or someplace and John would be there and always wanted to talk. And he wanted to talk about the county. That was his, that's what he liked to, that was his life pretty much. So, but all of the staff have been more than supportive of me. So I thank you very much for that. I'd like to thank certainly the present councillors here for supporting me and putting up with me, but I'd also like to thank the past councillors, and I hope I don't miss anybody, but Vic, Earl, Joe, Blake, and Gregory. I think were the other councillors that were involved in the past. And did I miss somebody? Terry. Oh, Terry too. Terry Schiffner as well, certainly. No, sorry. Terry, if this gets on video, I am getting older than you, so I'll use that as my excuse. So, and they've all contributed in their own way to help me along, and much more so at the start. It is a steep learning curve, and anybody that's starting into this should know that it is a very steep learning curve, and I'm not being condescending. So I'd really also like to thank the town of Stettler. So they have been very supportive of me, both administration and council alike. And some of the councillors certainly were friends before I became a councillor, but some of the ones that weren't have became friends of mine, and we do have a really good relationship. And I'd like to thank them for including me in some of the AUMA conventions that Lori and I went to with them. And it was a little bit funny because what's the name of the girl that worked with Stantec, Yvette? She could be out here lots.
Michelle?
No.
No.
Young.
Sorry.
I can't think of it. She
presented a lot of the stuff that the Stantec presented. She was one of Stevens' helpers, I suppose. And we went to an AUMA convention with the town of Stettler, and Stantec was there as one of the sponsors, I guess. And so we were standing with the town of Stettler, and this young lady came up to me and said hi. I can't remember her name, I don't know. It works for town of Lacombe now, city of Lacombe. But anyway, she said, would you like a drink? So she went and brought me a drink. Never asked any of the other guys. So that was kind of neat. And also Sheila McNaughton came along and gave me a hug. So, it felt pretty good to be recognized by other people. And also I became good friends with Barry Morshida when he was Mayor Brooks and then the president of the AUMA. So I've met so many great people, and some of the politicians that I met and have since become good friends, Wayne Drysdale and Richard Starkey, to mention a couple, just huge support for the county of Stettler. They were like absentee, or not maybe absentee, but in lieu of MLAs, I guess. They shadow MLAs. They worked very well for us, and they did a couple of things. We were having a little run-in down at with the transportation guy, Tony, at Hannah. And I said to Wayne Drysdale one day, I said, I would like you to go with me down to the office in Hannah. Just walk in the door with me. I said, you don't have to say a word. Just walk in the door with me. That's all you have to do. And he laughed, but it was, he saw the humor of it. But he went to bat for us a couple of times with some drainage out on 601 and other things that certainly, and he worked very well with Shirley Plum water line as well. But that was great to meet all the people, and that's one of the things I'm going to miss. It's all the people that you miss or that you meet when you go to various conventions and conferences and things like that. I just, that is something I will miss. To be candid, I'm not gonna miss the bullshit that's been going on in the past year or a few months. I'm not gonna miss that at all, and it's a little disappointing to me from, from what I know personally of some of the people involved, but it is disappointing. But I will watch it on Facebook if I'm, or whatever, however it's broadcast, until if I'm really bored, I watch it for a while. I might send a comment or two in, but I just want to say that I have enjoyed my stint as counselor, and I will certainly miss this part of it, the meetings and the people that are working for the county staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne, for, the service you did and those kind words to staff and to the people you've worked with.
Even James.
Even James, actually. Yeah.
The kind words for me.
And I guess this is the last council meeting for this council. I would like to thank especially staff also for all the support they've given Yvette and council. And to the councilors, like we've sat at the table, we worked through some pretty hard things, but we've always worked through it. So just to appreciate everybody that sat at this table in this room, in this building, it's been an honor to work with people too. So with that, the next meeting for the new council will be Wednesday, November 10th at 2021.
I think this one should go to Wayne.
Yeah, well, can I just make a comment before we go to that motion?
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'd just like to, I guess, wish Wayne all the best in his retirement as he steps down from council. And it was a pleasure working with you, Wayne, all these years. And I learned a ton from him too. He was a good role model, I guess, for many of us. And also I'd like to say this present council, it's been good working with you as well. And I guess the election, hopefully we'll see you all back. But if you don't, I just want to let you know it's been a pleasure working with you, and wish you the best in your campaigns. And I'm too, like Wayne, I'm very proud of what the county has accomplished, and the incredible staff we have at this county. And I think it's just, it's pretty awesome. I think we're kind of a poster child for many rural municipalities, how much we do get accomplished, how we lead the pack in so many ways. And we've got good people here, and I hope they know we appreciate them. And I'm sure you've heard it more than once, but it's your work is very much appreciated. And for that, I just wish all the councillors that are running in their election good luck in their campaigns. And then we'll see what happens next month, I guess.
And I also neglected to wish everybody luck in their campaign. So good luck, guys. You too, Les.
Thank you, win, eh?
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Nixon, Councillor Nixon, we have item number 15.
Okay, well, I'll do that. I give this meeting be adjourned.
Okay, all in favor?